All right, how's it going? Let me get Gary on the line. Let me get my man Gary on the line. All right, I gotta send him this link. I thought I sent it, but I must not have actually sent it. So let me send it now and get this thing rolling. How's everybody doing? If you're on here, drop where you're at, what's your location, and let me know that you can hear me and see me. Can you hear me and see me? Go ahead and drop a yes in the comments. Oh, and also, if you can, please go ahead and click the link in the post there, and that link is going to let me see your comments. So that way I can actually see who's commenting through StreamYard. All right, we're getting some stuff. Good. Okay. Paulo, what's up, man? How you doing? All right, Gary will be in just a second. So how's everybody doing? How is COVID? Are you open or closed? Let me shut this door. Are you getting students or are you not getting students? All right, Gary is here. What's up, Gary?
Hey, Lance. A broadcast studio, huh?
Oh, yeah, we fancy.
I was like,
how are you, Gary?
Should I put on one of these or something? Or
oh, that makes you look legit. I need one of those.
You know, I use this in my fitness classes. And
you use that?
Yeah, because I walk around on the floor.
Yep.
My people at home can hear me because I can't be screaming at my laptop, you know?
Okay, yeah. So you just got it hooked up straight in there, and you can just talk normal pretty much.
It's a necessity, man. You know, and I didn't even buy it. My students bought it for me.
They're like, we can't ever hear you, Gary.
Yeah, man. You know, and I was like, you guys, I see now. You know, I thought, oh, thanks for the gift, and then it's like,
Perfect. So how are things going?
Good, man. You know, I just finished lifting weights, and I've got some appointments on the books and got a little time here. So, yeah, man,
good.
No complaints.
I appreciate you jumping on. And I'm sure, as everybody else, Vu said he is open in Virginia. He's at Coyote High School. So cool. I'm just looking at the comments now. So Gary, you know, I've known you for a little while now. You're pretty much, we're local. We're about 20 minutes away from each other's schools. So that's cool. You want to just give a quick background about yourself, your academy, kind of just a couple minutes, how it started, how you got into it?
Yeah, well, you know, my mom put me in when I was 4 years old, and I cried the whole time. When the instructor gave out the renewal slips, I threw it in the trash. And my mom never knew. And it wasn't until I was about 16 and got interested again watching those Channel 20 WDCA Kung Fu Theater, you know, things on Saturdays. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, I remember.
I got back into it and dibbed and dabbed in Taekwondo, little Kung Fu, and one thing led to another. And I eventually opened up my gym here in Baltimore in 1995.
Nice. Okay, I had 94. I was thinking it was 94.
Yeah, not well. You know what? Technically, the government thinks 1995. I started paying taxes in 1995.
Okay, I'm sure you weren't slaying it in 94 anyway. So
I wasn't slaying it, man. I wasn't slaying it. Nah, man. But at the time, it was, I mean, I think it was just John Rollo and myself, and I don't know, and Yamasaki down in Southern Maryland.
McGilla was probably around, or he might have been working for Yamasaki at the time.
You know, I know he goes way back as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, long time ago, and just been going at it ever since.
So when did you get into jiu-jitsu? I know you have the Kung Fu and karate kind of background. When did you kind of start getting into jiu-jitsu?
Well, Lance, I bet your story is very similar. You know, I was a kung fu, Quoshu, Sanchow fighter, and thought, man, my martial art was the best in the world, kill anybody, and you know what I mean. And one day I was opening this magazine, Black Belt magazine or something, and in it was this $100,000 Gracie challenge.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever saw that.
Yeah.
Right? And it was $100,000 for anybody that can beat up the Gracies or beat them. And I'm like, what? Right? What's all that about? And somebody got me a video. And man, if you tell me, if you mention it, it's got this tiger going like this, and it's got this music going boom, boom, boom. Your heart's just going boom, boom, boom. It's just like, you know, you feel like you're in the jungle, just like kill, 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 and then all of a sudden just goes into Gracie's beating the shit out of people, like in their suits and on the beaches, and then like off the streets, and there's like the kung fu expert who gets his ass kicked, and you know, all these people just getting their asses kicked, and I was like, what? So then the UFC came out, and it was the Gracies, and I'm like, well, I got to see this. I'm sure you and anybody else watching this knows how that story went, right?
Oh yeah.
He just whooped ass and took prisoners, and you know. And I said to myself, I have to learn some of
I have
that.
to check that out, right?
Yeah, man. So at the time, all there was DVD or VHS tapes.
Yep.
And I did the best that I could and looked around and found a judo school. And I found out that the sensei there, John Anderson, who owned the Baltimore Judo Club, which, by the way, was founded in 1951 or 52, whatever.
Wow.
He was his specialty was groundwork.
Really?
So I, you know, he said, "Come on by, Gary, and you know what? We'll you know, get you on the mats and it just, I mean, it was like judo and jiu-jitsu were so alike. Everything that you saw the Gracies doing, he was doing, and having a 5th or 6th degree master, just one-on-one, or maybe you and a few friends, and learned a lot, man. And ever since then, you know, I've been on the mats, and it wasn't until maybe a few years later that I was introduced to some actual Brazilian masters. And then started, you know, affiliating, and you know, I guess that's another chapter. I don't know if you want me to go into that, but yeah. Well, the first master I was introduced to was Renato Tavares.
Okay.
And so prior to him, everybody that I rolled with or interacted with, and this is in the 90s, was just judo, or nobody really there. I never really got to roll with anybody with legit skills. So I had a seminar, and Renato Tavares came to do the seminar, and he was there to sort of measure me up too. And back then it was like, all right, boom, you know, and we just started rolling. And you know, I thought, man, this is my opportunity. I'm gonna kick some ass, you know. I'm gonna show him I'm a black belt. Well, you know, you know, he got me. He got me pretty good. You know, he got me in like a knee bar and maybe another knee bar, and you know, I was humbled greatly. And you know, he said, you know what, Gary, you're pretty good. You're deserving of a brown belt, and I think we'll go from there. And I was a brown belt for many years. And while I was a brown belt, I was introduced to Denilson Pimenta. I'm sure you know Denilson Pimenta. Oh, yeah. And he came to my facility and taught. He's really, really good. And he introduced me to a lot of other professors, and you know, like I was introduced to like GFT, what GFT was about, and I remember thinking, you know, what's GFT? Who are these guys? And somebody said, oh, they're not Gracies, or they're not Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. And I was like, what? I thought Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and Jiu-Jitsu were the same thing. And then I learned, oh, that's not the case. There were other lineages. You know, there were some old salty dogs back in the day that split off in different directions, and GFT was their own lineage, their own directions. And you know, there's there's a lot more to the story, but long story short, I am and have been a GFT affiliate for 8, 9 years, 10 years, a long time.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, I mean, like you said, very similar to us. We I started doing Kempo and karate and kickboxing and all that kind of stuff, and then I got into jiu-jitsu. Loved it. Just kind of picked that as my go-to. Same thing. Started with McGilla back in the day, and then kind of kept transferring. He had like a attitude. If you got your own school, he kicked you out of his affiliation. So basically, we got booted, and then luckily we found VJ Vicente Jr. and got him on board, and so he's ended up being a really great mentor and coach for us and business partner and things like that. So that's great. Okay. So we had I had known of you for a long time. When we first met, you were actually kind of looking to sell your gym. I think at that point maybe your father had passed away and you had a couple businesses that were kind of in flux and you weren't sure the direction you were looking to go. But luckily it seems like we obviously didn't make a deal on the gym, but you kind of got your focus back, I guess, on the gym and kind of went back in that direction. Is that fair to say?
It is fair to say. And by the way, the first time we met was actually on an airplane heading to California. You were with VJ, and that was my first.
Oh, yeah, Pan Am's. That's right. Yeah, Pan Am's of the world, one of those.
I mean, that was my introduction to competition. Well, actually, I did like this old barbaric basement tournament with Yamasaki back in the day. That's another story. But, yeah, we met on the airplane. And
that's right. I do remember that.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. My dad passed away. I've got his estate. I've got his business and all this stuff I was juggling. And I was trying to figure out, how can I handle all this? It was just so much, operating the school and handling all that. I thought, well, you know what? I've only really got so much bandwidth. I got to choose. And I did a lot of soul searching. And I thought, you know what? I think I'm going to give this art business a try. I also felt somewhat, I told my dad, as he was dying, hey, Dad, I'm going to carry on the business. I'm going to keep it going. So I felt somewhat responsible or obligated in that capacity too. I was, emotionally invested in that decision, and I decided to sell the school. And that's, and of course we met or discussed that. And I never really felt right about it. And my students and people around me knew something was up. I wasn't really at the dojo as much. I wasn't teaching classes anymore. I was always at the shop, trying to do this art business, and something changed. Well, a couple things changed, but one night I came in and I taught a class, and my wife happened to be there as well. And I'm out in the lobby afterwards, and I'm talking to students, I'm talking to my staff, and I'm talking to people, and I'm just, you could see that I had all this energy and I was happy, and it just was a good time, right? Yeah. And then my wife left, went to go back home, and I got in the car later on, and I called her up, or she called me, and she said, Gary, I was like, what? She said, don't sell the school, right? And I said, you know what? Why do you say that? She goes, Gary, I saw you in the lobby. I saw you talking to everybody. I saw how happy you are. You love this, right? This makes you happy. Don't give it up. And I said to her, I said, you know what? I was feeling the same thing. And that's when I changed my mind. And I was, it was like all this weight just was off my shoulders, and I knew what direction I had to go. Now I had to sell the shop. I had to let certain things go and focus on the business. And of course, all of this was before COVID. Yeah. We have to have that conversation too. But yeah, that's when I changed my mind, and thank God I did.
Yeah, that's good. So yeah, it was probably a great experience to kind of let your wife kind of see that and feel that, and then she comes to you as like, hey, look, like this is important to you. I can tell this is part of your life, like, and you're going to be miserable if you get rid of this school. That's pretty cool that she could see that, and that whole kind of thing went down like that. What so you decide to keep the school at that point. What that was probably what, in the fall of last year, maybe? Or
Yeah,
maybe
I think so. It might have been the fall.
something like that,
I
right? 'Cause
remember,
before COVID. And then so you kind of refocus on the gym at that point, I guess, and
right.
start.
My interest, my energy, everything was revitalized. I remember I came in the next day, and I go to my my manager here, and I say, "Hey, I got news for you." And he goes, "You sold the gym." Right. I was like, "No, I'm keeping the gym." Right. Like, I'm back. I'm going to start teaching. I'm going to be here every day. This and this and that. And like everybody was so happy. And it was like I was a whole new person. It really was odd. Like it was like, when you fall in love with something and then you lose your love and then you get that love back. That's what happened to me. It was love. It was like 110% enthusiasm. Like, man, I am going for it.
That's great. What so you started rolling again, I guess, and then COVID, right? I guess is kind of the next part of this disaster happy ending story.
Yeah. So, while I was away from my business, it just was not doing so well. You know what I mean? Like without me here, the numbers were down. I mean, it wasn't working out. I was paying the rent. I was paying the bills barely. But when I got reinvigorated and I became enthusiastic again, well, I started climbing and climbing fast, and things were going well, and life was looking good.
I mean, you've been in the business for a long time, so you know what needs to be done. You know how to do this stuff. So once you got that energy back and then the focus back, then it was kind of rolling.
Yeah. Well, then all of a sudden COVID hit us in the ass and shut us down. Right. We were shut down. I mean, you too, right? Maryland, 3 months. I remember, man, I went home because we didn't know how bad it was back then. I mean, I'm downstairs. I'm looking for my gas masks. I can count my ammunition. I'm teaching my 10-year-old how to pull the trigger, how to lie down in the hallway. If the enemy comes from over there, make sure you just keep pulling. I'm counting my MREs. I'm thinking, man, it's the end of the world. And I went up and I talked to my wife, and I was like, man, I don't know what's going to happen. And then things started calming down a little. And then I thought, well, what's going to happen to our industry? Are people going to come and do the martial arts again? I started thinking, like, what can I do? What kind of job can I get? I'm thinking maybe Home Depot. Maybe I'll run an aisle or something. Maybe I'll work in the tool department. What am I going to do? So I have to say, and this is a lot of thanks to you, I really was not very hopeful. I thought that this is a bad stock. You know what I'm saying? Like martial arts.
Why did we pick this industry?
Martial arts was just not going to make it. Everybody's calling to cancel. Everybody wants to. It was really ugly. And then I don't know how I got connected to you, Lance. I think you called me about something completely unrelated. It was like,
I was wondering that too. I remember it was during lockdown. You and I got on the phone, and I don't know, maybe it was about the gym or if you had sold it or what. And then we just started talking.
Oh, I remember now. It might have been that. And you asked me if I might know some people that might want to or be interested in something you were doing, which was the Kings.
Oh, okay.
I think that's what it is. And I thought, you know what? I'll check it out. Right. You never said, hey, Gary, why don't you join? You never even said, hey, Gary, take a look. Are you, we were talking about something completely else, right? Something different. And so I watched and I was like, remote learning, Zoom, virtual classes. Really? All right. And you explained it and you showed it and it made sense. Right. And all of a sudden now I have hope again. I have hope. And if I had not seen that, I don't know if I would have hung in there. I think I might have given up. My wife has a nice job. I mean, my income is not a necessity. It's good. I mean, my ass is working one way or another, but I think I was going to head in a different direction. And you gave me hope, Lance. So I thank you for that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, hope is a special thing because, I always say like hope, you don't want to have hope marketing, but like something like this is completely different because, it's like, it pushes you to that thing. Like you can say like, oh, there is possibilities like, oh, they're getting success from doing this. Like, and then it's like, if they can do it, I can do it. Like, and then it's like, then you just start kind of moving forward.
Yeah. And it worked. I mean, I was actually signing people up. I thought, geez, I mean, I went from like losing students now to like swiping some credit cards and like looking at my staff and saying, look, we're making some money. We're making money in COVID. Oh my gosh. So your system, everything that you had was like, I think genius, man. It was like a really good idea at a really good time, and I know that there are a lot of other people out there that just don't even know, there are other ways. And, hopefully some of these people get the word.
Well, that's kind of goes right into another question that I was going to kind of ask, like about people not knowing or mistakes. Like, what do you think, for academy owners, martial art owners in general? Like, what do you think? Like, one like common myth is that needs to be debunked about, whether it's pricing, whether it's who's going to do it, or will it work or will it not? Obviously the remote thing was one thing, but do you have any other example of something that you think like our industry is always kind of like, no, that won't work, or we can't do that, or can't charge that? Or do you have anything that you think that people should start to make, be able to see that, man, you can do these things, or you can do that in your academy to make it more successful?
Well, in the beginning, I thought to myself, who the heck's who's going to want to come and do the martial arts and take a chance getting COVID, inside in a building? Because, I mean, the CDC recommends people don't go inside, and, in the beginning, we didn't know what this was and how dangerous it was and if we were going to live or die or whatever. And I am now thoroughly convinced that this is a very good and very healthy thing. And I'm going to go to like an example. A lot of people watching this might have kids or know people who have kids, right? And I have kids. I don't know if do you have kids, Lance?
Yeah, I have 3 daughters.
Yeah, man. And I've got 2 teenagers who don't leave the house. I mean, they're all day on the computer. And it's not because they're in school. It's that they're in school, and when they're off on lunch, they're playing video games.
Yeah.
When they have a break, they're playing video games. And when they're out of school, they're playing video games. And only when they're hungry do they come downstairs, get something to eat, look in the fridge, and then what do? They go back upstairs to play more video games, right? So, like, I could pull up a picture here and share a screen or something, because what I'm trying to say is, man, our kids are just, really, like, their minds and their social interactions, their spirit, their the psychological effects of just being inside all day long and just being on the computer are, in my opinion, more harmful than taking a chance and coming out and meeting people and interacting with other kids and, learning the martial arts, increasing their confidence, learning self-discipline. And one thing I've learned in all the years is that grown-ups are just big kids, right? They're just big kids.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, and you look at the same thing. They're all at home on Zoom right now all day long, doing meetings, doing remote this, remote that, and they need it. They need that release and that exercise as much, if not more, than kids.
Yeah. So it's in the beginning I was questioning. I was like, are we really doing an ethical thing here? Are we being selfish and just no, I don't think so. I mean, we're careful here. We require everybody to wear masks. We make it as safe as we can. We clean. We keep people as much apart as we can. But there are times where we have to touch and we have to interact. But we do the best that we can. And I mean, we can't just shut down everything indefinitely. Like you just can't shut everything down. It's not going to work. So that's my take on it. I think that's the myth. That it's healthier to stay at home. No, I think it's maybe worse if you stay at home.
Yep. What about business side of it? Is there any business side wise? Like more kind of leaning towards like the business side of the school, like, hey, you have to do organic, or you can only charge this much, or I need to run this offer, or anything business wise that you can kind of relate to people that you see in the industry, or people making mistakes that you would recommend making a change? I mean, I know you've been through a lot of different programs and masterminds and all kinds of stuff, so I'm sure you've been exposed to a lot of different ideas and teachings. Some people have, some people haven't been through those kind of things. What do you think the one biggest problem in our industry other than COVID is right now?
I think that owners don't charge enough for their membership. Yeah. They just don't charge enough. They think, what? Customers won't pay more. Yeah, they will. Don't be scared to charge more. That's one simple and easy thing that you can do right off the bat, is just charge more. And I mean, you wouldn't want more money. I mean, I think that school owners are scared or afraid, and they just don't do it for one reason or another. And until they do, because how many people, Lance, do you know that took your advice? Because you certainly know what I'm saying, right? I mean, and then came back afterwards and said, gosh, I should have done this sooner, right?
Samir Chantra, he's like, however many time world champion, like he started working with us a year or two ago, and he was selling our 6-week program for like $299. And I was like, Samir, you can sell it for $599. Just do it. He's like, no. And then he raised it to $399. Then he raised it to $499. Then he raised it to $599. And this was over like a 6 or 8 month period. And then like he started selling them the same amount of rejections at that $599 price point. And he came back. He's like, I should have listened to you, Lance. I lost all kinds of money not doing that.
And sometimes the problem is in the owner's inability to see and adequately evaluate his value, his service. And I think that you do really good at explaining that to people, Lance. I think that you show ways of giving value, and you give us ideas on how to give free uniforms and how to add virtual learning as an additional benefit. I mean, there's lots of things that we can do to stack value. I mean, you're an expert at stacking value. And so for people that might have difficulty in understanding why it is that they can charge more, I think you can definitely help people like that. And that reason alone might be a good reason to hook up with you,
Thank you for that. And I think a lot of it also has to do with like people think about their own wallet. Like, so, you know, a lot of people in this industry maybe weren't trust fund kids or have like, you know, tons of money or whatever it is, get into a job like this. And they think, well, I've got 3 kids at home. Like I could only afford this much, or I would only want to pay this much. So then they start thinking from like their wallet versus like, you know, I talked to Joe, or no, I was talking to William, one of the guys in our group yesterday, and he's in, I think it's like Laguna, California. And same thing, like his guy didn't want to charge more money. And he's like, man, I literally took him out the front door and like pointed on the hill. And I was like, see that house right there? That's a $5 million house. People can afford $200 a month for jiu-jitsu. Like, you know, it's okay. Like you might not want to pay that, but I mean, I pay it for all kinds of stuff. Swimming, $1,500, $2,000 a year. Soccer, like select soccer, lacrosse, like all of these things, people are charging. Gymnastics. So, you know, you don't want to come from the idea of like, hey, this is what I want to pay, or this is how much I think they should pay. It's like, no, you make the price based on what you need to survive as a business and a business owner. And then if people can't afford that, you're just targeting the wrong people, or you're not being able to, like you say, relay that value to them. You know, if I say I've got a Porsche for $1 million, yeah, you might not be able to pay that. But if I say, hey, I got that same Porsche for 500, and you're like, well, I don't have 500. I bet you figure out how to get $500 real quick to pay for it. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's all about that perceived value. And I think that, like you said, is being able to stack enough things on top. It's way better than discounting it out. I stack those offers on top of each other, and a lot of them don't cost us anything. You know, it takes us a couple minutes to build a booklet or build some kind of resource, and then you say, like, here, take all this stuff, and this is why it's worth $599. Like, yeah, you can go down the street and get jiu-jitsu classes, 3 classes for free if you want, but you're not going to get a uniform. You're not going to get a curriculum. You're not going to get nutrition. You're not going to get a mentor. You're not going to – all of these things just start adding it up. So I agree 100% with that. I think that is one of the biggest problems in the industry. And even like VJ's a good guy because, you know, VJ comes here and he wants to make a value for himself at a certain level. And he's like, man, these other guys come here and they'll work for $5 an hour or whatever. Like, he's like, it messes up the whole industry because people are like, hey, that guy's doing it. Why aren't you doing it? So again, that's kind of one of our goals, like Academy King wise, is to raise the whole market up so that, you know, we are on that higher level of earners, right? We want to be able to push that value and actually make a decent living with a martial arts school. We shouldn't have to be scraping and grinding every day. So now, how are you doing now? How are things? COVID's kind of fizzling out or starting to see the horizon there. How are things going now at the Academy?
I feel like it's getting better. Although it seems like the numbers in our state are getting worse. So I'm, you know, my feeling is that we're probably not going to get shut down again, but hey, we might. Yep. I'm right now sort of like in a transition between deciding to either start marketing back or focusing on adults rather than kids. You and I were talking about that. I haven't made that change yet. But that's kind of how I do it. I'll focus on kids, then I'll focus on adults. I'll focus on kids, and I'll focus on adults. And
I really like that approach too. Like, because my thing is all about kind of like throughput of advertising. So like, if I have $100 a day budget that I want to spend on advertising, I would rather put 100 towards one program rather than splitting that up and getting less results for two programs. I'd rather say, hey, okay, for the next 30 days, I'm going to focus on adults. I'm going to do $100 a day. And you know, that way it's like, I'm getting more throughput. Like, the numbers are just bigger. So I can get more people setting appointments. I can get more people showing up. I can sell more people. As you split those up, now Facebook doesn't have enough juice. All these different advertising platforms don't have enough juice. The smaller you make those budgets. So I think that's really smart to just pick one thing, advertise hard. You can switch it. You can keep it the same. I've found that if you advertise one thing really hard, you will still fill up the other programs. Like if you're going with parents, like parents are going to have kids, say you're going with adults. A lot of adults are going to have kids or have cousins or nephews, and they're going to say, hey, you should check this out for the kids program, or vice versa. You're doing kids, like each kid has a parent. So the parents are going to start coming in and doing the programs. So I don't think, our approach is like a much larger kind of umbrella, and then we try to funnel them down from that umbrella. And I think it works really well. So I agree with that, trying to stay focused on one at a time. And then it just also makes the sale easier. You get used to talking to adults or kids or fitness or whatever it is that you're doing. So I kind of agree with that process and that approach. So right now you said right now you're focusing on kids, I guess is what you're saying?
Yeah. I also finally realized a big mistake that I've been making. And, maybe it's my personality or what, but I just hope that if I just cash my check and put it in my account and don't really look and see how much I have, that I've got enough. You know what I mean? Or if they're not coming to like repossess my stuff, I'm doing all right. I'm not really looking at the numbers and not looking at the metrics. And I know, Lance, you're very good at that, and you've taught us how to do it. You've even given us KPI sheets, and we've even had special talks and on how to look at numbers. And I have to admit, I haven't been looking at the numbers, and like the KPI sheet and how it relates to a campaign is not enough. Like the whole business, you have to look at everything, right?
Yeah.
So I have a student of mine who is really good in that department, and every time he sees me, he's like, cash equals leads equals sales equals cash equals leads. You know what I mean? It's like, and he's like, Gary, you're looking at the numbers. What are your sets? How many, what's your percentage of this? What's your percentage of that? And I feel embarrassed that I can't answer those questions. And he's like, well, how do you know where to make changes? How do you know what's working? And how do you know what's not working? You can't just like hope that people are going to come and take your shit or that your account has enough. Like you have to know where the problems are, right? So I just recently made a decision to hire a person in the Philippines, right? And they're going to work for $5 an hour. And her job is to give me 5 hours a week to specifically do one thing, and that is go get my numbers, right? Of course, I gotta report the numbers, right? I gotta, I have to like make sure me and my staff put our numbers that she has access to, and she's going to pull them all together and put them in one spot. And I only made that decision yesterday. I have to do it because like I have to do it. Like I can't be like, oh well, it's working. We're doing more signups than we are spending in advertising. It's like, well, no, that's not good enough.
Because you need so the one of the misconceptions I think on data and knowing those things is people only look at it as like the negative side of it, right? Like, oh, maybe my sales aren't good, but what we can also use a lot of that data for is decision making, right? So a good example of that is if you're running a paid in full kind of Black Friday special. Right. So if you know that your average student is going to be $2,000 is the lifetime value of your average student, right? If you know that you look at your data and the lifetime value of all of your students is $2,000, now you can make a decision and say like, okay, like my average student I get $2,000 from, do I want to give $1,000 1-year membership if it's paid in full? Like those numbers don't make sense because I'm already averaging 2,000. So like if you need the money, then yeah, obviously like you're struggling, you're about to go out of business and you need cash, like, yeah, hey, 50% off or whatever it is, like it's 1,000. But if you don't need money and you just want to use this as a way to get an influx of cash, then it's like, hey, look, I know my average student is 2,000. My enrollment is 3,000 for the year. I can say, okay, well, let's do $18.99. You're gonna, you're still gonna save $1,000 or whatever. But now I can make a decision based on the numbers that say like how much I should actually charge for that paid in full membership. Now in reverse, if my lifetime value of that person is $1,000, and I'm trying to get 2,000, like, and I can get it, then great. Like I should be selling paid in fulls every day, all day, because I know the average student is only going to give me 1,000 and I can get 2,000 by doing a paid in full. So like, those are the things where it's not only about like, hey, my sales are sucking right now, I got to work on sales. We can also use this as decision processes to make better decisions for our income or for our paid in fulls or for these different kind of programs.
I'm on a mission to find what my cost per close is when it's all said and done. And I'm looking at a sign up. I want to know how much did it cost me to get that result, and I don't know. I've got one guy, that guy who seems to believe for me it's $600. And I'm like, how can that be? And the dude is sort of like a mathematical genius. And he's like, well, you're telling me your Facebook cost per lead is 12 and your set rate is 30% and your sign up rate is 30% of that. And he's looking at all my numbers and he's like, your cost per close is about $600. And it scared the shit out of me. I'm like, I don't think it's $600. He's like, Gary, I think it might be. And I need to know. I need to have an answer to that. And by the way, the next time we all get together, that's one of my major questions. I'd like to know, like,
so it's CPA, cost per acquisition. Yeah, you want to know that number because, again, that goes back to how much ad spend you can have. So, again, like it all of those numbers matter because it starts to look at, hey, if I run a campaign and let's just say yours is $600, you need to be spending $600. I don't think it is that much. I would very much doubt that. But because there's probably some things falling through that maybe he's not thinking of or that you're not tracking correctly. But you want to know that because you want to know what that lifetime value is. And then, so the other thing is like, if just say it is 600, if your lifetime value is 2,400, now, like, man, it cost me 600, but I'm making 2,400 off of them on that lifetime value. But then what you can start to do is track the 600 and say like, okay, what do I need to do to get the 600 to 500? And then once I get that, it's like, what do I need to do to get the 500 to 400? And then you start bringing that down through your data. You figure out what those numbers are, and then you start to chop away at what you can change, whether maybe I don't need that software. Maybe I'm paying too much money for the closer. Maybe it's this, maybe it's that. And then you start figuring out what those numbers need to be that break even on the front or make money on the front end and then make more money on the back end.
Right. Well, that's my mission right now because I really, I don't know. And it's a shame and it's embarrassing and it's just terrible. It's terrible business, it's important. And I know
it's absolutely important.
And I know, Lance, you've been telling me us this for like a long time. You should have just.
What do they say? You can lead the horse to water.
You need to slap us around a little bit more. Like Gary, come on.
And anybody else also, if you're on the call and you need some KPI sheets or anything like that, if you want some number kind of breakdowns of how to figure these things out, lifetime value, cost per acquisition, any of those things, just put KPI in the comments there, and we'll get you a sheet on that, or at least kind of give you some slides to explain that to you. Vu asked, due to his work and other issues, he can only offer one class a week for kids. Do you think $50 is too low, or is that fair? just started this program and a month before the pandemic. So for me, it's not about what is fair or what is what the decision needs to be based off of data, just like we're saying. So if that class costs you $100 a month to run per person, you don't want to charge $50 a person. And the other thing is like it goes back to perspective and how you can kind of sell it, right? So if you just started the program, there's only 3 or 4 kids in the program. When you're selling the program, you don't want to sell it from the idea of like there's only 3 kids in this program, so it's $50. Like, no, it's like it's the exact opposite. You got to flip that and have the perspective of like, man, this class is amazing. Like, we only have 3 kids in this class, and it's set up that way for a reason, because we want these kids to get really, really good results. And that's why we charge, $150 for this class. It's a very small teacher to student ratio. So again, it's like how you sell it, right? Is it bad that there's only 3 kids, or is it great that there's only 3 kids? So for me, I would sell it as like, man, this program is brand new. We're like putting a ton of effort into it. The coaches are there, one-on-one almost with the students. It's almost like a semi-private class. So that's why we're charging the $150. And yeah, I would try to raise that price closer to that $150 range if you can. Even if you did an extra class on Saturday, or if you have a blue belt that can help you teach a class, it doesn't always have to be a black belt teaching those classes. What do you think, Gary? Do you have anything on that? Like a kid's class 1 time a week, what he should charge? Or
well, 2 things. One, $50 a month. Those were 1994 prices here in Baltimore, at least, right? And just so you know that here at my academy, it's about $119, and it's been that for a while. And maybe we should raise that.
Yes.
And we don't even, when we present to people, we don't even tell them there's a 1 day a week option. Everything in our language is 2 days a week, or maybe something more. And only if the objections get to like, hey, I can only come Saturday, or all I can do is Friday. Well, then we'll say, okay, man, we do offer a 1 day a week thing. Because if you put the 1 day on any kind of sales sheet and they're price conscious, they're going to go right to that 1 day a week, even though they could come more than 1 day a week. And another important thing I think that you said, Lance, is that you don't need a black belt instructor. You don't need a world champion. You don't need somebody with 80 different medals. You need a really good, decent human being who can communicate, who is charismatic, who gets people excited, and is just a good teacher, right? Yeah. I have a great instructor here who's a purple belt, and he was only just recently promoted to purple belt, and I will take him over any black belt world champion any day of the year. I mean, the guy's phenomenal. So it's really the person more so than the belt.
Got to be Junior.
It is Junior.
Yeah, he's awesome.
He's like an empath. Like when you're talking to him, he'll stop you and finish the sentence that you're saying, right? He not only knows what you're going to say, he knows how you feel, right? He'll touch you. He'll put his hands on your shoulder and say, like he really is sincere, and he really cares. So and people pick up on that, right? It's like, is this guy here just to like make his $25 a class, or is this guy just here because he's only here 1 day a week, or does this guy care about me? If you care about a student, the student will feel that, sense that, and that is something that they'll pay $150 a month for, for 1 day a week. So.
Yeah, that's kind of our pricing. We're actually 200. So we do 49 a week across the board for all of our programs, whether it be fitness, whether it be Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, kids program. It doesn't matter. It's 59, and they typically will pay the $499 deposit or kind of credit kind of deal, and then we drop that down to that $49 a week price point after that. So really, we're getting $500 for them. up front, and then we're getting that $49 a week, so it's $210 a month is what we're charging here for kids. Our small kids only have 2 days a week, so we do a 2 day a week for our like 4, 5 to 6 year olds, and then the other kids have 4 days that they can come, but typically they only come 2 or 3 days a week as well. So that's just the pricing that we have, and I know that pricing works everywhere. So again, like, don't be scared to raise those prices. Don't be scared to change that up. I like that weekly format. One of the things I think will work with you definitely, Gary, is getting those prices up more. Maybe switching to that weekly deal. That really works well. You get those extra monies from them. I told the story before about my granddad's rental houses, and that's kind of how I came up with that weekly pricing. So it's a pretty cool story. But my grandfather a long time ago had a bunch of rental houses in Baltimore, and he would every week he'd get his suit on and he'd go up there, he'd put his fancy ring on, and he'd go up and collect his rent, and he would do it every Friday. And I was like, Granddad, why you go up every week and collect rent? And he's like, when I first started, I didn't have a lot of cash. Like I would buy a house and I'd be cash poor for a while. And he's like, I needed that cash flow every week to be able to, if a plumbing issue came up or a roof came up or something like that, he could use that money because he was getting it every Friday to be able to spend on things and what he needed. He was a railroad police officer for the B&O railroad up there. And then he was like, and then I figured out, like, man, I'm getting an extra month of rent every year from these people because of the way that goes. You get that extra month of payments. And it's the same with us as gym owners. Like, we're paying our staff on that weekly basis, but and our electric is on a daily basis, and insurance and all of these things that are coming out regularly. But we're only charging our students monthly. So we're paying, one entire month a year out of our pocket basically for these things. So that's why we made those changes. So that's one thing that maybe next week at our roundtable, we're gonna be working on with you, KPIs and changing those pricings up, Gary.
well, let me just say, the price points that you just mentioned, I got from you, and I am using. I was just saying the 119 is my 1 day a week. You know what I mean?
Okay.
If I got to fall back on that, if somebody's looking at my normal price and they say I can only do 1 day a week, we give them something off the books for that.
Yeah, that's good. That's fine. Yeah, make a deal if you need to. Cool. Gary, we've been on a little longer than I thought. It was a great discussion. Any advice that you would have to anybody in the audience there? We'll just kind of wrap it up with that. And I got one more question at the end. So if you could, if you have any advice you want to drop out real quick, be my guest. Put me on the spot here, Lance. Besides looking into the Kings. Yeah, it doesn't have to be about that either. Any advice at all, whether it be training, whether it be personal finance, whatever you think. A book that you like. What do you got? Anything?
Well, for anybody that does kids virtual classes, I read this book to my kids, and they love it. Right. Yep. So I do about a 45-minute kids session twice a week for kids that don't come to the dojo, but parents want them to stay at home. And I really just go through warm-ups, and we might do a move or two. I go over a code of honor, and I talk about, discipline and hard work and respect and all that stuff. And then I read to them. I read them a chapter, and they love this book, right? Or any book. If you can read to kids and be enthusiastic and talk to kids and stop for a second and say, kids, now did you hear that, right? How many of you do this? And if you can bring this to the kids, oh gosh, you should just see them. They just sit there like this and they're just watching. Yeah. They love it. And then at the very end of my class, I do a little I Spy. Right. If you go to YouTube and you look for Kids I Spy. What you go to you basically give them like a 3 to 4 minute little like, all right, kids, try to find the candy cane, and they're looking and they're looking and they're llooking. I see it, I see it, I see it. That's a little powerful show I just explained there. You know. By the way, I got that from you, right? You have the outline, the book, but I've been doing this now for months, and that's my system. So if anybody out there is looking for like an online kids virtual sort of like system, that works really well for me.
Great. Yeah, that was the remote stuff that we did back at the beginning of COVID. We came up with the 8-week kind of or 6-week kids program. And then we were using some of the workbooks and some of the life skills and stuff like that, all kind of built out, which worked really, really well, like you said. So cool. One last question, Gary, and then we will wrap it up. Well, 2 last questions. One is, where can people find you if they want to connect online or anything like that? What's the best kind of online connection for you?
Well, my website is baltimoremartialarts.com. Just go to my website and you can read about what we do, what we offer, and read up on me and my history and about the school. And pretty much everything you need is on the website, baltimoremartialarts.com. And Facebook, you can hit me up Facebook. Just look up Gary Berger, Baltimore Martial Arts. And it's not too hard to find me.
All right.
My avatar might be me when I was 35. So, if you're looking for gray hair, just look for the guy with the brown hair. That's me.
You got the old the real estate sign look going.
Yeah.
Got that 30-year-old picture up there.
Yeah, man.
All right, last question, and then we will close it out. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received? Whether it doesn't have to be business related, it can be if you want. But what do you think is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Oh, man. All right. So sometimes when I get the first thought in my head, that's the one I go with. And if I overthink it, so look, this is the first thought that came to my head. And it relates to what we're all doing here, right? Because anybody on this right now is probably thinking, how can I improve my business, or how can I make more money, right? I mean, we wouldn't be here right now if we weren't looking into making more money, right? So when I was a little kid, I once said to my mom, like, Mom, I want to be a millionaire. And she said, why do you want to be a millionaire? I said, because if I'm a millionaire, I'll be happy. I'll be able to buy anything I want, and I'll be a millionaire. And she said, well, Gary, if you really want to be a millionaire, find an occupation that you love, right? Find an occupation that you wake up in the morning and you want to go to, right? Like, I firmly believe that anybody on this call right now, or anybody watching this in the future who's a martial arts, loves their job, right? I mean, who doesn't want to get up and go to the dojo and exercise and roll and make money while you're choking people out? I mean, like that's nice, right? That's fun, right?
Yeah.
And she said to me, she said, in the beginning, maybe you might not make so much money, right? But if you do what you love, all right, money will come. And that's the greatest gift of life you can have, is just a job that you love. Because who wants to be in a job that sucks? Yeah. Imagine that. I mean, imagine that. I mean, I've never had a job that sucks. When I was a kid, I had some that sucked. But I don't think of my job as something that I detest or don't want to do. I look forward to it. So that's my advice.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. And I actually had a shitty job that I hated. I was a union electrician, and it's a great profession, make great money, but it just wasn't what I wanted to do, and that was one of the driving factors that got me to invest in myself, invest in my business, to try to figure out how to get out of that daily rat race of driving to DC every day, working at the electrical jobs, and that was one of those things that I just figured out, like, man, I need to invest in myself, whether it be mentally, how to get myself mentally prepared for things, how to mentally be able to exercise the things that I'm being taught and the things that I need to do every day. And then also just the business knowledge of like how to figure out the numbers, how to run a successful ad campaign, how to do, marketing the best way that I can, how to do sales the best I can. And that's, I've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars. I currently invest over $5,000 a month just in coaching programs and things like that. And it is something that I think if you can find that thing that you're passionate about, like you said, it doesn't feel like work. You don't, it's not like, oh shit, I got to go to the office on Monday. It's like, oh man, I get to go train. Got a couple meetings and I'm going to train at noon and eat some lunch. And then I get to do some more meetings. And so yeah, definitely, it definitely is something if you can figure out that passion and make it work and again, raise those prices and you actually make a little money with your passion.
That's right. Not $50 a month. Get away from
Well, awesome, Gary. Thank you so much for jumping on. I will see you next week on the call. But if you guys need anything from Gary, hit him up. Super smart dude. He's been in the game for a long time. He knows what's up. So hit him up if you got any questions. Or if you're ever in the area, Baltimore, stop by his gym, stop by my gym. We're always welcoming new people. So thanks again. Anything else, Gary?
That's it.
Awesome. I appreciate you jumping on. I'm glad you didn't have to work at Home Depot.
For some reason, I think it's still in my future. I'm going to be in the aisle one day, telling them where the 3/16 bolts are, but it'll be just for fun, right? I don't think it's just for fun.
Yeah, my dad, he's retired for a while now, and he's always like, I'm gonna put an ad out in the paper for he's a Harley guy. I'm gonna put an ad out in the paper. I got a brand new Harley. I only want like $3,000 for it, just so people come and talk to me all day. you get bored. You just want some friends to stop by. Well, awesome, man. I appreciate it. Like I said, I'll see you next week. And then if you guys need anything, hit us up. If you need that KPI sheet, just drop KPI in the comments, and we'll get you that sheet. Thanks again, Gary, and that's it. We'll see you all next time.
Thanks for having me, Lance. Take care.
All right. See ya.